Hello, and welcome to episode 36 of Design Curious Podcast. I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. Today on the podcast, we have one of my very own coaches, Kimberley Seldon, which I'm very excited and honored to have her on the podcast today. And I will get into her introduction here in a minute, but first I want to remind you that if you're thinking about a career in interior design, which is why you're listening to this podcast, then you'll want to download the 3 things I wish I had known before starting a career in interior design. Signing up for that will put you on the mailing list to make sure that you get each and every podcast episode to your inbox and any other goodies that I have along the way. You can sign up for that download on my website, rwarddesign.com/podcast. So let me tell you a little bit about Kimberley. I feel like she barely needs an introduction. If you haven't yet, go and listen to her podcast, Business of Design podcast, and you'll just hear so many great episodes on how to run a wonderful design business that has definitely influenced myself. But let me tell you that the Kimberley Seldon Design Group is a thriving interior design firm with offices in Toronto and Los Angeles. Parallel to her design career, Kimberley is an in-demand TV personality, having hosted 3 of her own shows for HGTV Canada and currently appearing nationally on Cityline, City TV in Canada. Kimberley was also the decorating editor of Style at Home magazine for 18 years. And then in 2004, to help other designers reach their full potential, Kimberley launched Business of Design, an online learning platform offering field-tested business training. Today, Business of Design has members from more than 50 countries around the world and is a trusted resource for design professionals looking to satisfy clients and run a profitable, successful interior design firm. So without further ado, let's talk to Kimberley Seldon. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hi, Kimberley. Welcome to Design Curious Podcast.
Hey, Rebecca. It's so good to be here and really nice to see your face.
Yeah, you too. It's such an honor to have you on the podcast and kind of a turn of events because I've been on yours a couple of times, but now it's such a privilege to have you on Design Curious.
It's really weird to be the person being interviewed. Much harder.
Yeah. All you have to do is basically just talk about yourself. So, you are obviously a successful designer who leads other designers into success with your program. But I wanted to kind of go back to how it all started. What made you interested in interior design in the first place?
Well, it's not my first career. It was my second career. My first career was television. And I worked at ABC in Los Angeles, and then I ended up meeting a Canadian. We got married. I moved to Canada and I worked at CTV in production. So I always worked on TV shows. I loved it. And then, I don't know, I found out that I was expecting our first baby. And I thought, TV's a little crazy. Like, the hours are crazy, the budgets, the clients, all of it's a little bit crazy, a lot of diva energy in television. I thought, man, I'm going to do something easier. I know, I'll study interior design. That'll be fun. In fact, I didn't even know there was a difference between interior design and decorating. So I signed up for this 3-year diploma. And when they sent me the list of things I needed to buy, one of them was a drafting table. And I thought, what on earth do I need a drafting table for? I just want to go shopping with other people's money, kind of thing. But it turns out I really love drafting. So I actually am really sad I got rid of it was a really pretty vintage drafting board. And I think about it nostalgically from time to time. I guess nobody needs one anymore, but it was just really fun.
Yeah, I had one for school, like a portable one. I could set up on my kitchen table and take it with me if I needed to. But yeah, I don't know that they really require those anymore.
I wouldn't think so because
Yeah.
everything is AutoCAD. And so I never actually learned how to do AutoCAD,
Mm.
but I still think about those days sitting at the drafting table and how fun that was.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. Okay, so then after you finished your certificate program, then did you go to into business for yourself right away, or did you work for someone else for a little while?
Well, the plan was to work for someone else. By the time I graduated from school, I was pregnant with our second child, and I went to school evenings and weekends. So mostly I was a full time mom who was going to
Mm-hmm.
school. And the plan was to get a job working for somebody else. But in 1991, there was a terrible recession. And I
Mm.
went on many job interviews where I was told, like, gee, we would love to hire you, but there's no work. There's just no work at all. So I thought I will go into business for myself. I mean, how hard can it be?
Really?
I was really naive, and probably that's good because I maybe wouldn't have done it if I had known how hard it actually was going to be.
Yeah. Definitely a challenge. Okay, so then you did start working and obviously you
Oh,
found it a challenge, right? So
oh,
I've heard you
disaster.
talk about some stories where you like have a baby on your hip or you're holding someone else's baby, right? And then you're like, why am I not
Yes.
at home with mine? And like all these
Yeah,
wonders.
I'm paying a babysitter and showing up to client meetings. And because I'm not charging very much at all, they're treating me like I'm not worth very much at all. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
holding their babies and I'm standing in the kitchen while they make soup and they just never get around to making decisions, and meetings that should take 15 minutes were taking an hour and a half. And
Uh,
and someone smarter would have stopped the train wreck that was my interior design practice earlier. But I just kept thinking it'll get better. It'll
yeah.
get better. I'm like an eternal optimist. Don't worry, you're just learning. It'll get better. But it
Yeah.
only gets worse, right? Because you get bigger clients and more money, and then it gets worse, not
Right.
better.
Right. Yeah. If you don't have any guidance on how to set up your procedures. So, did you ever reach out for coaching or seek out advice from other people?
It's so funny. I signed up for a variety of coaching programs. One of them I remember really well. It was this company here in Santa Monica, a woman named Bobby Leonard, and she had these tapes and it would tell you how to run your business. And it was like, I don't know, $600 or something, which was a lot
Mm-hmm.
of money to me back, in
Yeah.
1992 or whatever. They were utterly useless. In fact, it's the only time I can remember where I actually asked for my money back and they
Oh
said
no.
no. They just said, no, you're not getting your money back. So I did a lot of that. I threw money at it thinking somebody will tell me how to do it. But the reality is, nobody really did know how to do it. That was
Mm.
the shocking thing. I just imagined that everybody was doing it right and I was doing
Mm-hmm.
it wrong. But the truth is, we were all doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Did you have like a community of designers locally to you that you would reach out to or swap
I
stories
did.
with?
Oh my gosh, I'm laughing because there was this one. I did. I had a really great group of designer friends who were all doing it badly and not making any money. And I'll give you a perfect example. This one friend of mine, I won't say his name, but I just saw him in Palm Springs last week. We went for lunch. He had this client he met in his elevator at his condo. And the guy said, oh, I'm a businessman and I'm flying here, there, and everywhere. I never have time to decorate. And my friend said, oh, well, what do you want done? He said, well, I'd really like to get some wallpaper in the foyer. And my friend said, well, I'll do that for you while you're away. I'll hang the wallpaper and get it done and you'll see how you like it. And then we can do more work together. So he did. But the guy never paid him. He never
Oh,
got any money up front. He didn't have a retainer. He didn't have a contract. He just went and bought some wallpaper and
goodness.
showed it to the guy first. The guy said he liked it. He told him how
Yeah.
much it was going to be. He said, sure, no problem. So he ordered the paper, had the paper installed, and then the guy ghosted him, wouldn't speak to him, although he lived in the same building.
Oh
So
no.
my friend would like go to his floor and knock on the door. He wouldn't be home. But one day he realized that they had this program where you could put your shoes outside of your condo door and they would be polished and cleaned and returned to you. So my friend took his one left shoe. And then a few weeks later, he went back. He took one more left shoe.
Oh
He
my goodness.
has six left shoes. And the
Oh,
building had to set up these cameras trying to figure out who the shoe thief was. Of course, the man knew who it was, but he
oh,
couldn't prove it. And, that's how people operated, like
oh
the
no.
Wild West. And I'm like, it
Mm-hmm.
would just be so much easier if you got paid. I don't need six left shoes, although it's a funny story. Right?
Yeah.
I need the money, maybe.
Yeah. So what happened next? You're doing business poorly and not making
Yeah.
any money and
Yeah. And complaining all the time to
yeah.
anyone who would listen. My clients are terrible. They take advantage of me. They're not nice people. They don't pay their bills. My trades are terrible. They take advantage of me. They don't show up when they're supposed to. My
Hmm.
staff is useless. They don't do what I need them to do. They never can anticipate what I mean, it was so negative. And I finally had this friend who said, "You are so negative. I can't stand it anymore. Here's a phone number. Call this woman." And I literally thought it was a psychiatrist or a psychologist,
Yeah.
but it turns out she was a business coach.
Oh, okay.
And I had no idea why I would call a business coach because my clients were idiots. My trades were idiots. Like, what could a business coach teach me? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, after a very rocky start, we worked together about a decade. And I say a rocky start because I had so many firm rules about how the industry worked. It was
Mm-hmm.
really hard for her to get me to change my mind. Nothing I was doing was working. And yet
Mm.
I was very committed to how I
Mm-hmm.
was doing it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And the reason I was committed to how I was doing it is because all my friends were doing it the same way and they were all getting their butts kicked.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them was making almost no money, had low self-esteem, right?
Yeah.
But we still thought because we're all doing it this way, this must be the right way.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was an expensive first couple of years where she's trying to get through to me that I might want to change some things, you know.
Right. Yeah. Do you think back during that time that designers were very transparent with each other about their problems and what they were charging or what they should be charging and what their
Oh
markup were
gosh.
and things like that?
Not at all. In
Hmm.
fact, it's really funny. The first time I started sharing what I was learning from my business coach was around 2001. And, a couple of things we had tried were beginning to work. And so I started sharing what we were trying and how it was working. And I remember the very first official kind of business of design event. It was at a carpet supplier. They did have beautiful Persian carpets, and he had about 100 designers in the room. And I decided I'm going to tell them the truth. I'm going to tell them how bad it is and what I've been doing to make it better and what is now working. And one of the questions I asked was, "How much do you charge?"
Hmm.
And people were so offended. They were angry. I literally had people heckle me. I remember going to High Point once and a man yelled that I was rude. And he
Oh,
stood up and he stormed out of the theater in front of everybody
wow.
because I had asked, "What do you charge?" Nobody talked about it. It was embarrassing and shameful, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why we didn't talk
Yeah.
about it, but nobody talked about it. Nobody had that information on their website. And people were really even angry that I talked about it. So, what is this, 2023 or whatever?
Hmm.
Now, when I go somewhere, I say, "What do you charge?" Most people, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people just say what they charge. But that took, 20 years of an uphill battle to get people to be honest about that.
Right. Right. And we've had interior designers for, a long time now. And it's only
Gosh.
now that it's started to become transparent, which is really unfortunate.
Well, imagine how wonderful it would have been to be Elsie DeWolf when
Yes.
nobody knew what designers did. They didn't know where the trades were. They didn't know where to buy fabric. They didn't know where to buy furniture. They didn't know what anything cost. So, of course, everything was a secret. You didn't
Hmm.
have to tell anybody anything. You just charged your thousands and thousands of dollars, and the very wealthy paid it without asking questions.
Hmm.
But, circumstances change, and that's just not the way it works anymore.
Right. Because I know it was later in the game that you started to have a business that worked more smoothly for you and had procedures and systems. How did you find it with raising your children with the business as it was? Like, did you have a hard time balancing it, work
I
life?
really did. Yeah, I really, really did, particularly at the beginning when I had no systems and procedures. We used to put the kids in bed at night, 8:30, whatever it was. And then I would call it the second shift.
Mm,
And I would begin the night shift of working. And my husband would work for me too. And of course, he wasn't getting paid. I wasn't billing for any of his hours.
yeah.
I just kept thinking, if I just try harder, if I work smarter, if I apply myself, I'll get it done. I'll get it done. I'll get it done. But the truth is, if you are applying the same principles to get yourself out of a problem that caused the problem, you're in trouble, right? You've got to do
Mm-hmm.
it differently. So the very weird thing was, as soon as I started getting systems and procedures that worked, I immediately could see I had a little free time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the workday didn't bleed until the evening. I
Yeah.
could go home at 6 o'clock and I could have an evening with my family. So I know that I was a much better mom once my life changed. And that's why we always say at Business of Design, if you're ready to transform your business and your life, then do this, because that's what happened. It transformed my life.
Yeah. Made it a sustainable career
Yeah.
and something that you can enjoy, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I went
Yeah.
from thinking I had terrible clients and terrible trades to thinking I have the nicest clients in the whole world and the best trades.
Yeah.
Nothing changed. I always had the same clients and trades.
Mm.
I just am running a different business now. So they like working with me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're definitely a trailblazer trying to get the word out there that like this is not acceptable way of doing business. Designers like wake up and start, being transparent, start having systems and procedures. Was that challenging for you, or do you feel like you fell into that kind of a role naturally?
Well, I just started sharing what was working, and that felt very comfortable and very natural. But like I said, like in the early days, there was I was met with a lot of heckling and anger. And it was really shocking to me. But then there were other people who were like, oh my gosh, you're changing my life. Thank you so much. This is so helpful. But there was a lot of resistance to change.
Mm-hmm.
People had been doing it the way that I used to do it forever. And some people still are, of
Mm-hmm.
course. And that's fine if it's working for you. But
Mm-hmm.
I've never really met anyone it's working for that does it,
Mm-hmm.
the way that I used to do it anyway.
Right.
So it began to be gratifying that, little by little, some people changed what they were doing and they would say, like, oh, wow, that worked for me too. I know, Leanne and Nyla in
Mm-hmm.
Calgary, and Leanne Bonnell and Nyla Free, they've both been on the podcast a number of times. They were fairly early adapters. In fact, I think Leanne was one of the first ones in 2004. So people like that would say, I did what you suggested and it worked.
Yeah.
And then they would tell a friend and they would tell a friend and they would tell a friend. And, I still think Business of Design is the best kept secret in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
We're still not widely known, believe it or not. We meet designers every day who say, where have you been? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, we've been waving our arms.
Yeah, I know.
Help, we're here.
It's hard to believe. Yeah, they haven't heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2004 is when you started Business of Design. So it's been
Yeah.
almost 20 years now that
Right?
you've
Isn't
been
that
growing.
crazy?
And like, how has it changed since the beginning?
Well, like I said, now when I say, what do you charge? A lot of people just tell us what they charge.
Mm.
At the beginning, nobody got paid for a consultation. Everybody went for consultations for free. That was a
Mm.
really hard one. And people would
Yeah.
get angry. Oh my gosh, so angry. And I'm like, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I do. You don't have to change anything. Do whatever you want. I'm telling you what I do. And it
Yeah.
works so much better. And if you want to try it, great. But if you don't, peace be with you. Go your own way, man. It's all good. So I
Yeah.
would say that's a huge, huge change. I would say more people are starting to realize that this is a career that you can make a lot of money at,
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of the business coaches are still, kind of aiming so low. They're
Mm-hmm.
telling designers that they can make 30,000 a year. And I think, oh my God, you can make 30,000 a year working at Starbucks. Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? The problem with our industry is that we assume so much risk and liability with the work we do, right? If
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming if you work at Starbucks, there's not a lot of risk
Mm-hmm.
and liability. You're probably covered for anything that could go wrong at a Starbucks. But in our job, that's not true. And so you do need to make money. And I think in the last 5 years, we've even changed our focus away from, come on, you can do it, you can make some money, to like, now we're talking like, if you're bringing home a profit of 100,000 plus, you're at the starting gate. That's
Yeah.
not the finish line anymore. That's the starting gate.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're meeting designers who are approaching, 7 figures in terms of what they make annually,
Mm-hmm.
which is, of course, I couldn't have ever dreamed that in 2004. I didn't ever think that that was possible, but it
Right.
is, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's really great. So I've been a part of business of design for about 5 or 6 years, maybe now. It's hard to keep track. So I've really benefited from the systems and procedures that you guys have. And it's really been a game changer for my business. But the other thing that I really love that you guys started was the boss groups, which is your mastermind groups, and just having a tight knit community of designers that know your business and it's basically your board of directors has been really a game changer as well for my business. And you can't imagine doing design without them now and going forward. Like I think we're lifelong friends. And so do you have a group that's like that or a mastermind that you belong to?
You know what? I don't. Hilariously, as you know, whenever I'm with your boss group, I'm like, I really wish I were a member, not just. And then I have signed up for so many mastermind programs, and I've paid so much money to be part of groups that facilitate it with other business owners. And I've definitely learned some things, but I've never found the right community. Like I've never learned as much in those, very expensive programs as I have working one-on-one with other designers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the weirdest thing, but I wish I was in a boss group. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm living vicariously through all of you guys. I just show up from time to time, and it's just like awesome to be
Yeah.
a small fly on the wall and take it all in.
Yeah. Well, definitely let you be a part of ours whenever you want.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you. But to be fair, the boss group works because people like you, Rebecca, you've done the work. Like you've put in the time to improve your business and make it work. And you're serious about it. It's not a jobby for you. You realize that this is a career and it could be a thriving career. So I think that's also important that the BOD boss members are all ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean everybody wants to make $1 million because, as you know, that is just not what drives some people.
Right. Right.
They might have another goal, but the group
Mm-hmm.
still helps them get there. So
For sure.
we've just been really fun to watch you guys. I feel like the grandma or something to all these groups.
So where do you see your career and business of design going forward?
It's so funny. My career, I had the best year I've ever had last year. So I'm thrilled about that. This year, I don't think it's on track to be as good as last year for a variety of reasons, but that's okay. It'll still be a good year.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see myself doing this for, another 10, 12, 15 years. Who knows? Like I'm finally good at it. So being an interior designer is something I excel at and my clients like me. So it's not such a challenge anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Business of design, we're having a real moment where we're thinking about the future, which is part of the reason we wanted to do the boss groups. We realized that if the message is going to continue on, we have to spread it a little further.
Mm-hmm.
And we need those mature business owners who can carry the message to keep carrying the message. So we're thinking about how we're going to allow business of design to continue into the future for a long, long time. And that's exciting to think about. Like, I really feel like I've said it before. It's so silly, but this is my calling. Like interior design is great. I make money. But I knew the first time I spoke to a group of interior designers, wow, this is what I was meant to do with my life. Like I can actually make a difference in someone's life.
Yeah.
And in so doing, I make a difference in my own life because I remember, don't go back and do what you used to do. It doesn't work. Stay the course,
That's great that to have a legacy like that you can leave. And it's really important. I think that you're laying the groundwork now so that you don't have to be as involved in the future if you don't want to be, but the torch still is burning.
Well, when I think about it, we've just barely scratched the surface. There, 95% of designers don't make money, or don't make enough, and don't even think of themselves as career professionals. Often it's kind of a jobby for people, and that was certainly one of my challenges. I had a husband who had a high paying job. And so that allowed me for a number of years to think, well, it doesn't really matter if I don't make money this year. I'll make money next year. I'll make money the next year, the next year. And really, if you're in business for yourself, you should make money the first year. that
Yeah.
somebody should have smacked me upside the head and said, don't be an idiot. You should be making money the first year.
Yeah.
And that continues to be a real challenge for our industry.
I agree. Yeah. I see that a
Yeah.
lot. And you also have continued the TV aspect through all this time, right? You're still going on TV.
I know, it's so fun. I every time I'm on, I think, gosh, this is great. I can't believe I get paid to do this. But that was one of the things that really helped me get a lot of clients. I had several of my own TV shows on HGTV Canada. And so I didn't have any trouble getting clients. And for some people, that's the hard part, getting
Yeah.
clients. And I understand that. Getting the clients wasn't hard. Keeping the clients was hard. Making the clients happy was hard. So that definitely gave me name recognition, and a platform. And today I just have fun when I'm doing this show. I do City Line every month, sometimes more. And I just teach how to decorate or how to design something. I'm doing ceilings this week, how
Oh,
to design ceilings. So it's really fun. And occasionally I get a client from the TV show, but mostly not. Most of my clients are a bit higher end and,
yeah.
but it's really fun to do. So I would encourage everybody, if you can get on a show, it's just a hoot.
Yeah.
And you get your hair and your makeup done and it's fun. It's just
Yeah.
fun.
Do you mostly talk to DIYers type of public, or is it like people wanting to know what trends are, or just kind of like that basic information, or do you actually get into some real design?
I'm lucky. I actually do get into some real design. So Cityline is the Canadian version of like the Ellen show.
Okay.
It's a morning talk show. It's been on the air for I'm going to get the wrong number, but I think it's been on the air for like 35 years.
Okay.
It's been consistently running. It may be the longest talk show in history. In fact, that's possible. They've
Wow.
had multiple hosts, but the show just keeps going and going and going. And every Thursday is home day. And Thursday is a very popular day. And, we used to take live callers. They would phone in and we'd draw right on the spot. And I'm terrible at drawing. I mean, I hated that. I do these bad drawings and have to like act like that's totally cool. Now it's a little bit more polished. We do some pretty big setups and it's live to tape now. So they could stop the tape if they absolutely need to. We need to change the set. So sometimes that happens. It's been fun to see the evolution of that game. But ultimately, I learned if you're ever thinking of doing television or a speaking event, it was really helpful. Somebody told me only talk to one person, talk to your best friend. So whenever I'm teaching something, it's like as if I'm teaching this to my best friend. How would I talk exactly to her?
Okay.
Because some people get very stiff and like, one might choose a wallpaper and nobody likes that, right?
Yeah.
You just have to channel your bestie and talk to your bestie. It's kind of like the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Even though you probably interview a lot of people you don't know, you just act like you're talking to somebody you just adore, and that comes across.
Yeah. And do you think those skills crossed over to presenting with clients?
Yeah, I'm sure they do. In fact, our podcast next week is on improv. I had Marilyn Smith. She's a Second City alumni. She is talking about how improv can improve your life and your business life. I think a thing like that is really helpful. If you have trouble communicating or thinking on your feet or engaging or turning a bad situation around, some improv classes can really be helpful for sure. I think more what television did for me, it allowed me to really increase my rates because I was well known, right? So people just assumed I knew what I was doing, even though I'm so sorry if you hired me 25 years ago. It was a disaster and I apologize.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think about that sometimes. Early on clients who can't afford me now, but I also provide such a different service to them early on. And so sometimes I'll have clients from the past reach out from like 10, 15 years ago. And they're like, well, we're thinking about doing something else. I'm like, okay, well, we have this whole process now. Like, because you really told me. So
we've come a long way.
And then oftentimes they're like, okay, well, that's not the same type of thing that we used to do. And they're just looking for someone who wants a job.
Yeah, exactly. And that's okay. They'll find somebody. There's lots of people out there.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks. So, of course, we'll include all of the links for Business of Design and everything in our show notes. And that's obviously a great place for designers to go to help elevate their business. Any other advice you have for designers or people thinking about the career? Is it worthwhile career, obviously. You think so?
It's absolutely a
Yeah.
worthwhile career. I would say get yourselves with a tribe of people who are taking it very seriously and who are making money. Although I love my designer posse, I call them, they're the worst business owners. And we just spend our time laughing about the kind of stuff that happens to them when they don't get paid. And it's just, oh my gosh, it's super fun, but not helpful. So get yourself a tribe that is very serious about design and stick with the winners. I mean, I know that's terrible because it makes it sound like someone's a loser, but truthfully, stick with the winners.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for coming on the podcast today. It's been great talking with you.
It was so fun. Yeah. And congratulations on your podcast and your mentorship program and everything. Yeah, I know you've worked really hard to make it all happen.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to, I'll see you. I don't know when I'm going to see you, but I'll see you soon.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right, sweetie.
Talk to you soon.
Bye for now.
Bye. Oh my goodness, such a treat to have Kimberly on this podcast. Such a inspiration for me and definitely one of my mentors. So it's great to have her here so we can hear about her story and what got her into interior design and how figuring out her own systems and procedures for her company has helped influence hundreds and thousands of designers around the world to have more successful businesses as well as more satisfying lives as designers. So thank you, Kimberly, for that. And of course, you can find all of her information in our show notes, as well as a link to the Business of Design online platform. If that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and sign up for that there. Don't forget to leave me a rating and review. I love to hear what you're enjoying about the podcast, and you can connect with me on Instagram at rwarddesign. So stay tuned. Next week, we've got another great episode for you. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.